This is Miles. Still breathing. Still broadcasting. 6 days. That's how long it's been since the static turned to nothing. No pulses, no echoes, no ghost signals from Delta. Just me. The dark and the geophone clicking like an old heart skipping its beat. I wasn't sure I'd come back on. The power draw's been erratic. Panels coated in ash. Wind turbines singing a different pitch now. But something in me, the part that still wants to be heard, flipped the switch. Again. If you're out there, I'm here. The Midland break's been groaning more than usual. Not a quake, not a jolt. More like the earth is stretching itself from the inside, like a body trying to stand after being asleep too long. The tremors come low, like breath beneath floorboards. The dog used to bark at them before she stopped barking. Before she stopped. The station creaks more now. I've bolted the southern wall with scrap steel from the old solar array. Still not enough. Nothing ever is. And the air smells different. There's a sweetness to it. A burnt mineral scent. Like something deep below wants us to know it's still there. Still watching. I found an old cassette yesterday. Just labeled Rain 1996. I played it, just for the sound of it. Just to remember that water used to fall from the sky instead of leaking from cracks in plastic pipes. 6 days. It felt like I'd gone deaf, not just alone. But I'm back now, and the signal's carrying. I can feel it hum in the wiring like a memory trying to claw its way out. If this reaches anyone, you're not the last one left. Not yet. This is Miles. Still breathing. Still broadcasting. The rupture runs from what used to be central Kansas, all the way down through the spine of the continent. The cartographers have stopped giving it coordinates. The satellites can't keep up. The maps have become lies. Polite ones. Like denial folded into topography. But we've given it a name now. The Midland break. It's no longer theory, it's a scar. Yesterday, I looked through the periscope. The one mounted on the silo roof. The tree line is gone. So is the hardware store. The church bell that used to chime on wind alone now lies cracked in a crater shaped like a question mark. I watched the earth split open once during the early days. It doesn't tear like fabric. It softens first, soil turning to soup, asphalt curdling, then the slow yawning, foundation stretching until gravity says enough. The old towns didn't fall. They were unstitched. Houses slid into chasms sideways, not downward. Mailboxes hovered a moment too long. When I say break, I don't mean fracture. I mean memory loss. I mean a forgetting of shape. There's still a tower frame, standing in the center of what used to be Weston. Just the skeleton. No wires, no signal, no name. I think it's beautiful in the way a jawbone is beautiful when you realize it once held a voice. We used to believe the plates only moved inches in our lifetimes. Now? The edge is shifting daily, meters, maybe more. The tension's been stored too long. The earth wants to exhale, and the noise beneath the noise. It's getting louder. There are places now where magnetometers spin like compasses with no north, where even the birds forget which way is home. And still, I broadcast, because some part of me needs to name the broken places, needs to speak them into the dark so we don't forget they were once whole. This is Miles, still here, still naming what's left. Ruth used to say the earth speaks through water, not through quakes, not through heat, but through seepage, through the slow bleed of aquifers into fault veins. She was a hydro engineer once, before the titles didn't matter, before we all just became what we needed to be. 3 weeks ago, she went to check the groundwater monitors near the edge zone, said the pressure readings had spiked, the kind that come just before the land gives up. She carried a field kit, a laminated chart, and an old charm necklace that caught the sun when she turned. I told her not to go alone. She said, "I'm not alone." "You're still on the air, aren't you?" She smiled when she said it, like it meant something. And then she was gone. I kept the channel open that day. Her frequency, her call sign, Delta 6, nothing came through, just pressure static, the kind you get when the rocks below are singing too loud for voices to pass through. I retraced her path later. Found a glove wedged in the reeds, a broken sensor case, and a shoe half submerged in mud with her name scratched on the sole like a child sent it to school. There are places near the fissures now where even your breath feels too loud, where the silence pushes back, where it feels like something ancient and slow is waking up beneath the clay. I don't know if she fell, or if the ground simply opened beneath her like it had been waiting. What I do know is that she believed the earth wasn't angry. It was exhausted, and maybe she was too. Tonight, I poured a cup of water and watched the ash settle at the bottom. It reminded me of her. Still, quiet. Weight that doesn't stir unless shaken. If you're out there, Ruth, you were always the one who listened before you spoke, and I'm still speaking, because maybe that's how we find each other again. This is Miles, still breathing, still broadcasting. We always thought the earth would warn us before it broke. Sirens, cracks, some terrible thunder rolling up from its depths like anger voiced aloud. But that's not how it happened. The earliest logs I found were from 7 years before the first major fracture. Quiet shifts, micro tremors, little pulses deep under the grain belt, logged and filed and archived into digital drawers. No one ever opened again. They weren't big enough to frighten anyone, just enough to be inconvenient, barely enough to get a grant. But they were there. I printed out one of the waveform charts, pinned it to the inside of the broadcast booth. It looks like a heartbeat skipping just before the stop. There's something sickening about how beautiful it is. You could hear them if you knew where to listen. Deep under the compressor hum, before the signal beds went silent. Frequencies we didn't understand, not because they were complex, but because they didn't fit our story. We dug too deep. We drained aquifers that had taken millennia to fill. We hollowed the bones of the earth and told ourselves it would hold. And maybe it would have, if we hadn't left behind so many old scars, so many fractured lines beneath cities that rose too fast. I remember Ruth showing me a groundwater pressure model once. She traced the cracks, like rivers, murmured, "It's not that the earth is breaking, it's remembering." She was right. This wasn't collapse, it was recall. If you're hearing this, and you're near the plains, look at the ground beneath your feet. Chances are the ghosts below have already mapped your tomorrow. This is Miles, still listening to what we refuse to hear. His name was Eli Radcliffe. He taught intraplate tectonics before the departments downsized and the funding dried up like everything else. He wrote papers on dormant faults, how they weren't dormant, just misunderstood. He talked about how stress accumulates in forgotten places, how the middle of a continent can split like any edge, given enough time and enough denial. He was dismissed, of course, called alarmist, called unpublishable. I have one of his letters, typed on real paper, a soft brown from age and ash. "Miles, they've closed the observatory, said the readings are noise, but it's not noise, it's rhythm. Something is breathing underneath, and we've mistaken the inhale for calm. If I disappear, it wasn't by choice. I'm heading east, to where the rocks hum louder. Tell someone, or at least remember." That was the last I heard from him. The eastern edge near the early faults went silent 3 weeks later. I sometimes wonder if he made it far enough to see the split with his own eyes, to whisper, "I told you so," into the wind before it carried him away. There's a box of old recordings I found with his name on them, mostly garbled, mostly hum and static. But one phrase cuts through. Everything fractures from the inside first. It sounds like a warning. But maybe it was a truth he wanted anyone to hear. We build things expecting permanence, bridges, borders, bodies. But the fault always begins beneath what we assume is whole. I hope Eli's voice found its way into more than just paper. I hope someone else remembers, because I do. This is Miles, still receiving what others discarded. The first rupture wasn't loud, it wasn't even sudden. It came in the stillest hour of morning, 4:17 a.m., when the world holds its breath between yesterday and tomorrow. I woke not to shaking, but to silence. The fan had stopped, the hum of the charge station gone, even the drip from the condenser pipe are still. And outside, no birds, not a wing beat, not a caw, not a single distant flutter from the wind-scrubbed trees. The clocks froze, not because of some dramatic power surge or explosion, just because something beneath us shifted the rules. I stepped outside barefoot. The ground felt wrong, soft but tense, as if it was thinking. There was no flash, no siren, just a long, slow sigh. And then, gone. The north fence dropped first, swallowed whole. Then the northernmost shack, the one with Ruth's old testing gear, just slid down, like it had always meant to be part of the void. And somewhere in that breath, she was gone too. My partner, my constant, the last warm voice in the cold geometry of collapse. They say grief is loud, but it isn't. It's the quiet after, the endless echoing quiet where you call a name, and even the ground refuses to respond. For hours, I stood with the receiver in my hand, not transmitting, just holding it, like maybe my fingers could carry her shape across the wires. The birds didn't return the next day, nor the one after that. I don't know if they fled, or just listened too closely to the earth. I never thought it would start like this. Not with fire, not with flood, but with hush. Still, I keep the signal alive, because maybe one of you remembers that silence too. And maybe, just maybe, we'll speak into it together. This is Miles, still breathing, still broadcasting. I watched it go down this morning. The twin arches, that last overland link between east and west, folded into the mist like it had been waiting to exhale for decades. It didn't crack, didn't scream, just sagged. The concrete bowed at both ends, the center span floated for a heartbeat, and then the silence of collapse. Not noise, absence, the kind of silence that tastes like finality. I'd crossed that bridge 3 winters ago, half buried in salt, rust like lace up the support beams, river ice whispering below. It always felt like it knew its time was running out. But we needed it. Refugees from the eastern side used to take carts and scrap bikes across it to reach the field clinics. Grain convoys passed twice monthly, their wheels wrapped in plastic, humming like tired ghosts. Yesterday, a scout tried to walk it after dusk. He turned back, said the surface was breathing. Now it's gone, and with it, the last route across the Missouri Rift. Everything on the east side is isolated now. St. Aurora's Station, the Delta Refugee Belt, those old hydropower clusters still trying to feed light into the dark. I marked the time of collapse on my log. 6:41 a.m., temperature 17 degrees Celsius, wind direction stalled, fog visibility 11 meters, atmosphere still, too still. I don't know if we'll build another, don't know if we can, but I stood there a long while, staring into the mist where the bridge used to be. And for a moment, I could almost hear the footsteps of every soul that had crossed it, layered into the river, like a memory the current refuses to wash away. This is Miles, still broadcasting, still counting what's fallen. Her name was Lena. I only heard her voice 3 times. Once in the early days, when she checked in from Delta Station. Voice crackling, but steady. Once when she asked for coordinates to bypass a collapsed levee, and once, the last time, she was trying to cross near the south fragment just hours before the twin arches fell. She said, "If I make it through, I'll tap the relay every half hour. If I don't wait for me." And then the mist swallowed her transmission. The river, too. That was 3 days ago. But this morning, when I adjusted the tuner to check for the secondary pulses, I caught something. A faint beacon, distorted by magnetized slurry. A repeating tap, irregular, like heartbeat static through a broken stethoscope. I isolated the waveform. It sounded personal. I don't know if it's her, or just a memory the river learned how to echo. The Missouri Rift isn't water anymore. It's mud. Rot. Pressurized silt carrying minerals the color of dried blood. Crossing it now is like trying to walk through a grave that hasn't stopped swallowing. I told her not to go alone, but Lena believed in routes no one else did. Believed in people still worth finding on the other side. She used to sign off her transmissions with, "We're still human as long as we try." I wrote that on the wall above the control panel today. Not for her. For me. Because trying hurts more than silence. But silence is just waiting for someone else to speak first. If you're hearing this, and you knew her, or were like her, keep listening for that echo. It might not be Lena, but it might be someone still trying to cross. This is Miles, still scanning, still listening to the ones we almost saved. The land doesn't collapse all at once. It dissolves. Underneath the rift, the crust has turned viscous, a deforming zone where even gravity forgets which way is down. We used to think of the ground as stable, but pressure changes everything. Add water, add weight, add time, and the ground becomes memory foam. It remembers stress. You step on it, and it shifts. You build on it, and it waits. You trust it, and it breaks. That's what we're standing on now. Not land, not soil, but a story unraveling beneath our feet. I ran a test yesterday, dropped a marker rod into one of the fissure wells. It sank nearly 3 meters without resistance. That's not ground. That's surrender. Steel has no meaning here. It folds. Like linen. Like old promises. There are parts of the northern shelf that used to be factories. Now they're ripples. Metallic fossils smoothed by subsidence and slurry flow. Whole structures bent inward like they were ashamed to be upright. It's not erosion. It's forgetting. And the earth is very good at forgetting. But I remember. I mark each meter of slippage. I log every ripple in the terrain. I speak it aloud because naming things is how we stay tethered. Even when the ground forgets to hold us. This is Miles. Still breathing. Still standing. For now. I poured a cup from the cistern this morning. Waited for the sediment to settle. It didn't. The water burned slightly at the back of my throat. Not poison, not yet, but close. There's sulfur in it now. Volcanic ash, too. Dissolved minerals that weren't there last month. It smells like something old and angry found its way up through the soil. We always thought the sky would betray us first. Acid rains, UV bursts, nuclear trace. But it was the water. The thing we trusted. The thing we carried in our bodies without thinking. They say magma is rising in pockets beneath the lithosphere. Not dramatic, not eruptions. Just heat pressing upward through fault-softened stone, dragging sulfur and arsenic with it. Ruth used to say the water would speak before the earth did. She was right. Again. I checked the filters twice, replaced the carbon. Didn't help. The aquifer pressure has changed. It's not flowing outward anymore. It's being drawn downward. Like the planet itself is drinking. The last time I saw water run clear was 6 weeks ago, just after the second break. A child in Delta caught it in a tin bowl and called it a gift. She didn't know that. Even gifts carry warnings. Today I marked the source well as compromised. 2 red bands, like a throat cut gently. If you're pulling from surface pumps near the rift zone, test for sulfur. And if you don't have the strips, trust your tongue. It'll know before your brain does. The sky is still quiet, but the water has already turned. This is Miles. Still drinking carefully. Still listening for what else rises. I found the tape wedged in a metal case near the old geological station on Route 3A. The lab's gone now, torn open by a lateral rip, scattered across farmland like fossilized paperwork. But the recorder still worked, cracked but breathing. I played it back this morning. Pressure spike on vent 17B. Surface temp up 4 degrees. CO2 output breaching safe zone. Again, the soil's ballooning under the cornfields. We are standing on exhale. And then silence. No goodbye. Just silence and wind. The CO2 levels in that area were already high. But no one expected deep gas release through farmland. Turns out, the soil had been venting all along. The footage from their drone, what little survived, showed plumes rising in columns from the ground like steam from a giant's breath. Odorless, colorless, deadly. It starts slow. You get tired. Then the pressure drops in your lungs. Then you stop. CO2 is heavier than air. It crawls low, hugs the floor. You don't feel it until it's too late to stand. The lab didn't outlive its own warnings, but the tape did. I sent a copy of the audio to anyone still on the Delta net. The farm belts need to be warned. Even empty fields breathe now, and not everything they exhale is something we were meant to survive. I marked the area on the map with black chalk, 3 kilometers wide, vulnerable to venting, vulnerable to forgetfulness. We used to fear volcanoes, but we never feared the flatlands, never feared the quiet. We should have. This is Miles, still recording, still trying to catch the warnings before they vanish with the air. It came through at 2:11 a.m., just a flicker, a pulse, a sound so faint I thought it was interference. Then it repeated, same timing, same cadence, 3 long, 2 short. Pause, repeat. I ran it against old seismic ping patterns, then against the archive from the undersea array logs, then finally, almost a joke, I tried the beacon signature from station Ganymede, and the match lit up, 94%, close enough to shiver. Ganymede was a deep-sea monitoring base, part of the Cascadia Subduction Project. They built it in the trench off the Pacific Shelf, said it could withstand pressure 12 times greater than Everest's air, said it would survive anything. Then one day, it didn't reply. We wrote it off, filed it under loss, assumed the ocean had folded it into silence, but something's still tapping, still alive. I don't know if it's human. Could be the AI downlink, automated sequences caught in a loop. Could be seismic transduction, the seabed mimicking what it once heard. Or maybe there's still someone down there, still trying. And if they are, they've been alone for a long, long time. I played the signal back over the broadwave just now. Did you hear it? Like breath caught in static, like a voice that no longer needs a throat. I sent an encoded return ping. Encrypted, just in case. I asked, "Are you still there?" I don't know if I want to reply, because if someone is still alive under the ocean's crust, they've been listening to us collapse in real time, and maybe they've been waiting for us to realize it's already too late. Or maybe they just want to be remembered. This is Miles, still breathing, still listening for what listens back. I didn't expect joy. Not today. Not here. But it came anyway. A flicker through the static, soft and low. A voice from Zone Delta. At first I thought it was wind pushing through the coils again, but it wasn't wind, it was breath. A woman's voice trembling. And behind it, a sound I hadn't heard in months. A child's cry. Thin. Wet. Startled by life. Like the air itself had remembered how to carry something new. The transmission cut in and out. The relay there is unstable. They've been running power through salvaged turbine cores since the ridge cracked beneath their shelters. But her words made it through. She made it, the voice said. She's small, but strong. We wrapped her in thermal mesh. We named her Static Gaia. I sat in silence for a long time after. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because the world, just for that moment, didn't need anything added. There are births, and then there are beginnings. And they don't always mean the same thing. I've spoken so often here about endings, about fractures, about silence. But today something new began. Not loud, not triumphant, but real. And in a world where the sky flakes ash and the groundwater eats metal, real matters. If you're within range of Delta, send what you can. Medical kits, filtered formula, heat cells, hope. They need all of it now. I've marked the coordinates again on the broadcast map. It's fragile terrain, volcanic rise zone, but still, it held her. The earth groans beneath us, and still, something breathes, something continues. This is Miles, still broadcasting, still believing that even now, life finds a way through the cracks. I played the recording again tonight, not the cry, though I remember it, the whisper, the voice of the midwife, old, tired, rusted at the edges, but steady. We named her Gaia, she says, because the ground still breathes. It hit me harder the second time, the way she said it, not with ceremony, not with hope, but with reverence, as if naming something was an act of faith or defiance. Gaia, the Earth Mother, the myth, yes, but also the memory. A reminder that before we broke the planet open, it held us, fed us, sheltered us, and now, despite everything, it still does. The Yellowstone Rift has opened wide, shifting plates and magma pulses disrupting the biosphere for hundreds of kilometers. And yet, in that broken zone, something was born. She didn't come from safety. She came from fracture, from heat and ash and hands that dared to deliver, in a place the world no longer claims. And I think about what it means to be born now, not into a world of abundance, but into one of uncertainty. No hospitals, no cribs, no lullabies except for the low hum of generators and the occasional wind through broken fence wire. But she is real, and she is named. And naming matters. Names anchor us. They carve memory into time. I wonder what she'll grow up believing. If she'll think of the earth as a mother or a wound. I hope someone tells her the story right. Not just the collapse, but the kindness, the holding, the choosing. We named her Gaia because the ground still breathes, and so do we. This is Miles, still remembering, still speaking the names aloud so they don't disappear beneath the dust. The land near Delta has changed again. Reports came in last night of a shelf rise, 12 feet in under 6 hours. Smooth ascent, no quake, no flash, just lift. It's happening more often now. Not just ruptures, reconfigurations. The Earth is drawing new lines, as if rewriting itself without asking for permission. We used to think of evolution as a slow burn, generations shifting incrementally, but maybe, just maybe, the Earth doesn't always move that way. Maybe catastrophe is a kind of jumpstart. Maybe Gaia is being born into a world that is already adapting for her. New biomes are forming in the rift shadows, heat domes that trap moisture, mineral surfaces where no roots should hold. We've seen lichens bloom in silica soil, heard birds mimic frequencies they never should have learned. I wonder if she'll walk barefoot across terrain we no longer recognize, if the air will taste different by the time she speaks. I wonder if she'll inherit our stories, or only what survives the signal. When I think of Gaia, I don't imagine swaddles or lullabies. I imagine a child who never knew what we lost, only what remains. Will she grieve the old world? Or will she love this new one without comparison? I used to think we were the last generation, that the world would fall quiet with us. But now, I'm not sure. Maybe we're the in-between. The voice between the static and the song. We broke the world, but she didn't. She was born into it, and still, she cried. Which means the air still listens, which means something still wants to be heard. This is Miles, still surviving, still wondering what kind of earth we've left in her hands. It started just before dawn, a low murmur in the receiver, not wind, not interference, something else, something measured, 3 seconds of quiet, then a click, then 2 more, then quiet again. Not random, not atmospheric, it had intention. I adjusted the gain, filtered out the high bands, dropped the carrier sweep, the pattern held. 3, pause, 2, repeat. Like a code from something that had forgotten how to speak, but not how to count. The pulse didn't match any open band weather harmonics. Didn't line up with geothermal stress signatures either. It came from beneath the noise floor, from below, somewhere under the fractured mantle, past the fault collapse, past the magma shift. Something was moving, or remembering, or both. You ever hear something that feels aware? That's what this was. It reminded me of heartbeat monitors from the hospitals. When I was young, we used to watch the screen more than the patient, believing the rhythm was life itself. As long as the line kept dancing, we still had a chance. This pulse felt like that, not alive, but awake. The Earth's been breathing strange ever since the rupture began, but this was different. Like something deep in the crust, older than us, quieter than time, finally opened one eye and blinked. There are patterns in collapse. We just don't always like what they point to. I've rerouted power to keep the recording loop active. I want to see if it changes frequency, or speaks, or stops. Sometimes I think we're not just surviving anymore. We're bearing witness to what the Earth used to be, to what it's still becoming, and to what remembers us even now. This is Miles. Still recording, still counting the seconds between each pulse. The pattern stayed consistent for 3 hours. Then something shifted. A secondary harmonic began to overlay the original pulse. Softer, quieter, but unmistakably artificial. I dug into old archives, the ones we pulled from the abandoned network relay. Towers before they fell. Found a series of seismic AI logs from the early Cascadia defense program. They ran deep monitoring systems during the 2030s, subterranean mapping bots designed to read tectonic stress in real time and respond with encoded pulses, meant to warn, to stabilize, or, if necessary, to trigger. Redacted files, most of it lost, but the pulse signatures, still stored. What I'm hearing now, it matches. Not completely, but close enough to feel like a memory. And it raises a question I haven't been able to shake. Did something wake up? Or did it never go to sleep? Some of those systems were buried miles deep, hardwired into magma channels, programmed to persist even after Surface Command collapsed. We stopped speaking to them decades ago. But what if they never stopped listening? What if, in the absence of human input, they began improvising, translating rock tension into language, responding to fault stress with static poetry, conducting their own slow symphony beneath us, a machine that only knew how to watch the end coming and report it over and over and over? I don't know if I've intercepted a remnant or a conversation, but the pattern changed, which means it's listening to something, possibly to me. And if that's true, I don't know what that means. Only that silence has never felt more sentient. This is Miles, still deciphering, still wondering what buried things remember when left alone too long. It happened at 3:42, a flicker across the voice band, not static, not machine, a voice. Barely 1.4 seconds, clipped, distorted. But unmistakably human. I ran it through every filter I had left. Noise reduction, spectral mapping, harmonic expansion, still couldn't make out the words. But the intonation, it was shaped like language. Not a scream, not a cry, but a phrase. Something said, something meant. It's been looping in my head since. And with it, a thought I haven't been able to shake. What if we're not broadcasting into the void? What if the void has been recording us all along? Every signal we sent, every warning, every call for help, every whisper into the dark. What if it was never ignored, just archived, filed away by something vast and slow? Not out of cruelty, but curiosity. Like we were a signal flare in a bottle ocean, a moment of brightness in a geologic age, and now it speaks back. I don't know if it was human, or what remains of one, or a machine that learned to speak by listening to our ends. But that voice, even broken, felt like it was looking through me. I keep replaying it, hoping to catch one more syllable, one more sound, one more reason to believe it wasn't a dream. I haven't told anyone else yet, not Delta, not the Ridge Network, not even the Mirror, because if it's real, it changes everything. And if it's not, then I'm already further gone than I feared. This is Miles, still listening, still haunted by the sound of something that should not have known how to say anything at all. The maps don't mean anything anymore, not the old ones, not even the satellite reconstructions we tried to stitch together in the early days. The land has moved again. Not slowly, not with the elegance of plate drift across geologic time, but like tearing cloth. I logged the changes at 4:17. Coordinates no longer match. Shorelines that once curved have broken into jagged, unfamiliar edges, like bones resetting in the wrong place. I've stopped calling them by their old names. The eastern shelf is now the hooked jaw. The peninsula south of the ridge is Mother's Scar, and the lone landmass drifting eastward off what used to be Colorado. I've named it the Spire, because it rises sharp and sudden from the water like a thought you didn't mean to say aloud. It helps, somehow, naming them, like naming pain, like giving form to something that would otherwise remain shapeless. No one's updating the atlases anymore, but I log the lines, the ruptures, the new water. Because if no one records what the earth becomes, then we forget it was ever ours. There's a strange comfort in it, this cartography of collapse, to watch the world redraw itself without us. The ocean keeps claiming land, like it's hungry for silence, like it wants to press its lips against everything we built and whisper it away. Still, I broadcast, I sketch new borders in pencil onto curling paper maps, and I give them names only I will remember. Because someone should speak of these places before they vanish again, before they drift too far to matter. This is Miles, still charting the broken edges, still calling each fracture by the shape it left behind. There's something about watching the land separate that makes you feel your own fault lines, the ones inside, the ones no GPS ever mapped. I've been thinking about the others, the ones I used to hear on the relay every night. Jenna from the Delta line, Thompson from the Ridge Valley Farm Dome, Lena. Their voices came steady once, like breath on a mirror, but they faded, not all at once, but piece by piece. A missed response, a failed handshake, and then just static. Distance used to mean kilometers. Now it means something else. Now it means silence. We're drifting, not just geographically, but emotionally. Grief that floats, untethered. You try to hold on. You repeat names in the night, like they'll hold fast if spoken enough, but memory can't defy gravity. And the heart, it splits quietly, like shoreline under pressure. Some nights I wonder if we're becoming islands too, not the land, but the people. Islands of thought, of memory, of guilt. We were built for connection, for touch, for shared breath and laughter across firelight. But now Now we echo. Now we signal across waters that weren't there yesterday. 100 voices once filled this band. Now it's just mine. And even I don't always answer. Still, I call. Because the only thing worse than becoming an island is forgetting you were once a part of something whole. This is Miles. Still listening. Still drifting, but not yet gone. It came in with the tide. A simple waterproof bag. Tangled in kelp. Caught against a buoy line near the western trench. I thought it was debris at first. Then I saw the clasp. And the initials burned into the tag. RLH Ruth. My hands didn't shake when I opened it. They waited. Still. Like the world was holding its breath with me. Inside, a notebook, dry, a data chip, and a string. Her old violin string, coiled tight. The entry on the first page was dated 4 days after she left. The soil sings louder now. I stood on the edge and felt it vibrate, like it was trying to speak through my bones. Further down, we won't recover the old earth, but we may grow something in its place. We plant in ruins. That's where the richest things grow. I read those lines twice. Then I loaded the data chip. It held a single file, an old violin loop, her fingers on a bow. Simple, steady, a lullaby stitched into static. I let it play across the broadcast. Let it fill the air between us like the scent of rain on scorched stone. I don't know where she wrote it or why she never came back. But I know this. She was still trying to give something to the world, even at the end. And maybe that's all we're meant to do. Leave something behind that sounds like hope, even if no one's left to hear it but the sea. I've looped her music now into the auto feed. It will play every night at 0200. Soft, quiet, like breath where there should have been a voice. This is Miles, still remembering, still playing what she left behind. This morning, I measured the distance again, from the edge of the breach to the northern wall of the station, 500 meters, give or take. The ground is warmer now, not just above, but underneath. It pulses in waves, like breath through fevered lungs. I ran the atmospheric data again at 0400. Temperature spike, 6.7 degrees. Wind pattern, stalled, then reversed. Humidity, sharp, metallic. Sound carries differently now. When you speak, the air swallows the words whole, as if reluctant to let them echo. The breach is wide, a canyon torn by pressure and quiet failure. The rock didn't shatter, it yielded, like it had been waiting for permission. Sometimes I hear the breach hum at night. Low, subsonic, as if the planet is whispering to itself beneath its breath. Not words, just the sound of something that's always known how this ends. The ash has settled on everything, roof panels, antenna base, the soles of my boots. When I walk, it puffs like breath into stillness. I try to count how many signals I've sent, how many frequencies I've cast into the dark. But the numbers are smoke now, like everything else. Still, I speak. Still, I log. The breach is 500 meters away today. Tomorrow, it will be closer. And after that, well, even the earth forgets eventually. Even maps unravel when there's nothing left to chart. This is Miles, still transmitting, still standing, 500 meters from where the world lets go. I've been archiving what I can, not to preserve, but to remember. There's a difference. Preservation is for museums, for monuments, for the belief that someone will come later to look, to study, to honor. But memory is for us now. So we don't forget what the world once felt like before it slipped through our fingers like dust through a failing filter. I found the old tapes today, one labeled Rain 2028, another just marked Laughter. I played them both. The first, a downpour on glass somewhere in June, birds still singing, a window creaking open. The second, a voice, Ruth's voice, laughing over spilled flour. You can hear me swearing in the background. You can hear the world before it broke. And that mattered. I logged them into the loop. Scheduled them to play every hour on the hour. So if anyone's out there, even if they don't catch me, they'll catch us. A moment, a sound, proof that we were. It's not legacy, it's presence. It's the refusal to vanish without song. I don't know how much longer I have here, not in days or breath or bandwidth, but in signal, in clarity, in coherence. But if this frequency holds, let it carry what we loved, what we mourned, what we sang. We didn't go quietly. We didn't go without remembering. This is Miles, still archiving, still adding memories to the wind. There's a tone beneath the static now, deep, ragged, like the sound of something tearing slowly, not in violence, but inevitability. I think this is what it sounds like when the earth forgets you. Not because it hates you, not because it wants to, but because it must. Because memory is weight. And the ground can only carry so much. I was taught that entropy means disorder. But that's not quite true. Entropy is forgetting. The slow surrender of form, of structure, of meaning. Things fall apart, not because they break, but because the pieces no longer remember how they fit together. Maybe that's what happened to us. Not collapse, not catastrophe, just forgetfulness. In systems, in priorities, in each other, we were warned not by prophets or plagues, but by numbers, by climate curves and methane thresholds, by maps that changed faster than we did. But we kept singing, kept drilling, kept building toward an edge we swore we'd never reach. And now, I am here. The breach is closer than breath now. I can feel the hum through the floorboards. The air is tighter. Like it knows I have only a few more words to offer, so I choose them carefully. We tried. We tried to love, to remember, to endure. We named our dead. We sang to the cracks. We held each other when we had no right to hope. And even now, as the ground groans beneath me, I am still here, still broadcasting, still surviving, still hoping this signal reaches something, someone that will remember we were. This is Miles, still breathing,